You are lying in bed, staring up at the dark ceiling. The room is completely quiet. The day is finally over. And suddenly, for no reason at all, your brain forces you to watch a 10-year-old movie of yourself doing something incredibly embarrassing. You squeeze your eyes shut. You physically wince. You might even shake your head or hum a random tune under your breath, trying to manually eject the thought from your mind. You just want the feeling to stop. The memory feels like a punishment. It feels like a cruel glitch in your machinery that exists only to make you suffer.
But what if that sudden, intense wave of discomfort is not a glitch at all? What if your brain is not trying to torture you? What if that agonizing flash of embarrassment is actually a highly evolved survival mechanism, working exactly as it should? To understand why your own past makes you cringe, you have to look closely at what that physical feeling actually is. Notice what happens in your body the exact moment the memory hits you. Your heart rate spikes, your stomach drops, your face flushes with sudden heat, and your muscles tense up. You are reacting to a physical threat that is not in the room. You are safe in your bed, entirely alone. So why is your nervous system flooding your bloodstream with adrenaline over a clumsy mistake you made a decade ago?
The answer lies in how your ancient brain categorizes danger. For the vast majority of human history, your physical survival depended completely on your social survival. If you were kicked out of your tribe, you did not survive the winter alone. A solitary human was a dead human. Social rejection was not just a sad emotional experience, it was a literal death sentence. Because of this harsh reality, your brain evolved a powerful hair-trigger alarm system to keep you safely inside the group. That alarm system is embarrassment.
A psychologist named Roland Miller spent years deeply studying the complex social function of embarrassment. He found that the cringe is not just an internal, private feeling. It is a highly specific, visible signal designed to be read by other people. When you blush, when you look down, and when you shrink your posture, you are performing a biological apology. You are showing the group that you know you broke a social rule, that you care about the rule, and that you submit to their judgment. It is an appeasement display. It tells the tribe not to cast you out into the cold. But that explains why you get embarrassed in the moment. It does not explain why you are performing a desperate biological apology to an empty room 10 years after the event. Why does the alarm keep ringing long after the threat is entirely gone?
To answer that, you have to completely rethink everything you believe about how your memory works. You probably imagine your memory as a massive, organized library. You assume your past experiences are neatly filed away like dusty books on a shelf, waiting for you to pull them down and read them exactly as they were written. But your brain does not work like a library at all. It works much more like a live theater. Every single time you recall an event, you are not simply reading a static, permanent record. You are actively rebuilding the memory from scratch, right there in the present moment. And because your brain is ultimately a survival machine, it does not treat all memories equal. It violently prioritizes pain.
Think about physical danger. If you burn your hand on a hot stove, your brain writes a very clear, highly accessible memory of the stove. It wants you to remember the agonizing pain so you never touch the hot iron again. Social pain is treated the exact same way. That foolish, tone-deaf thing you said at a crowded party is recorded by your amygdala as a severe burn. The cringe is simply your brain pulling up the file and reminding you of the danger. It is screaming at you, do not touch the stove. But why does it pull the file up right as you are trying to fall asleep?
During the day, when you are busy, your brain is fully focused on the complex outside world. It is tracking traffic, answering emails, and navigating conversations. But the moment you lay down in the dark and remove all external distractions, a specific network in your brain quietly powers up. It is called the default mode network. This network handles your internal world. It processes your past experiences, and it plans your future actions. And as it scans through your vast archive of files, looking for unresolved problems or potential threats, it trips over the hot stove. The alarm goes off. The cringe takes over. Your brain is performing a routine security sweep, and it finds a breach you forgot to patch. This brings us to the most fascinating part of the whole phenomenon. It is the central twist that fundamentally changes what the cringe actually means for you as a human being.
Think about the specific memories that make you wince the hardest. They are almost never about who you are right now, today. They are about who you used to be. The haircut you honestly thought looked incredibly cool in high school. The arrogant, uninformed thing you said in your first job interview. The desperate, pleading
fleeting text message you sent to an ex at 2 in the morning. A cognitive psychologist named Martin Conway dedicated his entire career to studying how we construct and remember our own lives. He developed a groundbreaking framework called the working self. Conway proposed that your autobiographical memory and your current sense of identity are locked in a constant, delicate negotiation. Your brain desperately wants your past memories to match your current self-concept. It wants a smooth, consistent, logical story of exactly who you are.
But you are not the same person you were 10 years ago. You have learned new unspoken rules. You have developed refined tastes. You have become significantly more emotionally intelligent. So when your default mode network suddenly pulls up a memory of your past self acting like an absolute fool, there is a massive internal collision. The working self looks at the old memory and realizes it absolutely no longer fits the current person sitting in the bed. The intensely uncomfortable cringe you feel in the dark is the actual physical friction of that collision. It is the bodily sensation of the vast gap between who you were and who you are now. Sit with that idea for a moment.
If you did not cringe at the foolish things you did 5 years ago, what would that actually mean? It would mean you had not learned a single thing. It would mean your social intelligence and your self-awareness had completely stagnated. The fact that your past behavior makes you intensely uncomfortable is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate, undeniable proof of your ongoing psychological growth. You cringe precisely because you evolved. The pain is just the sound of the old, smaller skin tearing away. But there is still another layer to this mystery, and it explains why the memory always feels so much worse than the reality of what actually happened. When you replay the embarrassing moment in your head, pay very close attention to where the camera is located. Are you looking out through your own eyes, exactly as you did when the event originally happened? Or are you watching yourself from the outside, like a character stumbling on a brightly lit stage?
A researcher named Ethan Kross studies how we talk to ourselves and how we visually construct our past. He explores a psychological concept known as self-distancing. Kross found something remarkable about how the human mind processes shame. When people recall highly embarrassing or shameful memories, they very rarely remember them from a natural first-person perspective. Instead, they almost always shift automatically into the third person. They see themselves from the outside. They become the fly on the wall. Your brain does this as a defense mechanism, but it is a brutal trap. By pulling the mental camera back, your brain forces you to look at yourself through the eyes of an imagined, highly critical audience. You are not just remembering what you did. You are actively hallucinating the judgment of every single person who is in the room. You physically feel their imaginary stares burning into you. You hear their imaginary laughter echoing in your ears. You magnify your own mistake until it takes up the entire screen of your mind.
This visual shift is why the memory always feels entirely out of proportion to the actual event. Your brain is running an exaggerated worst-case scenario simulation to make absolutely sure you never repeat the mistake. You are suffering 1,000 times more in your own head than you ever did in reality. And this leads directly to the one psychological truth that can actually set you free from the feeling. It is a phenomenon known as the spotlight effect. It is a persistent cognitive bias that makes you believe everyone around you is paying close attention to your appearance and your behavior. When you spill a drink in a quiet restaurant or say the wrong name in a meeting, you feel like a massive theatrical spotlight has suddenly snapped onto you, illuminating your total failure for the whole world to see and judge. But the spotlight does not exist.
Think about it honestly. Can you easily recall a time a close friend did something deeply, painfully embarrassing 10 years ago? Can you summon the exact details of a stranger humiliating themselves in a grocery store last month? You almost certainly cannot. And even if you can vaguely remember the event, your body does not flood with adrenaline when you think about it. You do not lose sleep over it. You do not care. Everyone else in the world is exactly the same as you. They are all entirely consumed by the blinding glare of their own internal spotlight. The people who were standing in the room when you made your terrible mistake have completely forgotten it. They erased your embarrassing moment a very long time ago because their brains are too busy forcing them to watch their own 10-year-old movies in the dark. You are the only person on the entire planet keeping the record of your mistake alive. So where does that leave you? Alone in the dark, desperately trying to get some sleep?
You cannot stop the memories from arriving unannounced. Your brain is a relentless survival machine, and it will always scan the dark horizon for threats, even the ones buried deep in your past. It will always check the perimeter. It will always remind you of the hot stove because it wants you to survive tomorrow. But you can completely change how you respond respond when the alarm finally goes off. Ethan Kross suggests using your own name when you talk to yourself about the memory, forcing a wedge of distance between the feeling and your current identity. You can step back from the emotion and observe it as a data point instead of a disaster. The next time the cringe hits you out of nowhere, do not fight it. Do not squeeze your eyes shut or try to manually eject the thought from your mind. Let the heat rise in your face. Let the stomach drop, and then take a very close, objective look at the person in the memory. That person is not you, not anymore. That past version of you was navigating a complex world with less information, less experience, and less wisdom than you have right now. They made a foolish mistake because they simply did not know any better at the time. And the only reason you know better now is because they took the fall and made the mistake for you. You are not under attack. You are simply witnessing the vast distance you have traveled. The intense, uncomfortable feeling in your chest is not a cruel punishment for being foolish. It is the hard-earned receipt for your maturity. You are lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The room is completely quiet. The day is finally over. And suddenly, your brain forces you to watch a movie of someone who no longer exists. Someone who had to stumble and fall so you could learn how to walk. You do not need to wince at them. You just need to say thank you and go to sleep.